Kings 2, Part 6. Josiah repairs the temple. In the 18th year of King Josiah, the king sent Shaphan the secretary to the house of the Lord, saying, "Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may count the money that has been brought into the house of the Lord, and let it be given into the hand of the workmen who have the oversight of the house of the Lord, repairing the house, that is, to the carpenters, builders, masons, and let them use it for buying timber and quarried stone." Hilkiah finds the book of the law. And Hilkiah the high priest said to Shaphan the secretary, "I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord." When the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes. Go inquire of the Lord for me." So Hilkiah and Achim, Achbor and Shaphan and Asaiah went to Huldah the prophetess, and she said to them, "Thus says the Lord, behold, I will bring disaster upon this place and upon its inhabitants all the words of the book, because they have forsaken me and have made offerings to other gods, but to the king of Judah, because your heart was penitent, and you have humbled yourself before the Lord. You shall be gathered to your grave in peace, and your eyes shall not see all the disaster that I will bring upon this place." And they brought back word to the king. Josiah's reforms. Then the king sent to all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. Then all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem were gathered to him, and he read in their hearing all the words of the book, and made a covenant before the Lord. And all the people joined in the covenant. All the vessels made for Baal he burned. He deposed the priests who burned incense to Baal. The Asherah burnt it, broke down the houses of the male cult prostitutes, defiled the high places, removed the horses that the kings dedicated to the sun, burned the chariots of the sun with fire. The altars that Manasseh made in the two courts he pulled down and broke in pieces. Solomon, the king of Israel, had built for Ashtoreth. Chemosh, Milcom, he broke in pieces. The altar at Bethel, erected by Jeroboam, he pulled down and burnt. He also burnt the Asherah, and as Josiah turned, he saw the tombs there on the mount, took the bones, burnt them on the altar, and defiled it, according to the word of the Lord that the man of God proclaimed, removed all the shrines, and he sacrificed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars, and burnt human bones on them. He then returned to Jerusalem. Josiah restores the Passover. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was kept to the Lord in Jerusalem. Before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to the law of Moses. Nor did any like him arise after him. Still, the Lord did not turn from the burning of his great wrath, by which the anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, "I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and I will cast off this city that I have chosen, Jerusalem, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there." Josiah's death in battle. In the days Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Josiah went to meet him, and Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo as soon as he saw him. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him and made him king in his father's place. Jehoahaz's reign and captivity. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the land of Hamath, and laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Elikam, the son of Josiah, king in the place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people, from everyone according to his assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim reigns in Judah. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldeans, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites, and sent them against Judah to destroy it. So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiachin his son reigned in his place. And the king of Egypt did not come again out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt. Jehoiachin reigns in Judah. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Jerusalem captured, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to the city while his servants were besieging it. And Jehoiachin, the king of Judah, gave himself up, and his mother, servants, officials, and his palace officials. The king of Babylon took him prisoner in the 8th year of his reign, and carried all of the treasuries of the house of the Lord. He carried away Jerusalem; none remained except the poorest people of the land. And the king of Babylon made Methaniah, Jehoiachin's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah reigns in Judah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. Fall and captivity of Judah. And in the 9th year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. The famine was so severe in the city that there was no food. Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled by night. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king, brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and they passed sentence on him. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him in chains, and took him to Babylon. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, burned the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem. He broke down the walls around Jerusalem. The people who were left, Nebuzaradan carried into exile, but left some of the poorest of the land to be vine dressers and plowmen. And the pillars of bronze and the bronze sea the Chaldeans broke in pieces and carried the bronze to Babylon. And they took away the pots, shovels, snuffers, dishes used in the temple service. And the captain of the guard took Sarah, Zephaniah, the 3 keepers of the threshold, an officer, 5 men of the king's council, the secretary of the commander of the army, 60 men who were found in the city. And the king of Babylon struck them down, so Judah was taken into exile out of its land. Gedaliah made governor of Judah, and over the people who remained he appointed Gedaliah the governor. Now when all the captains of their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah governor, they came with their men to Gedaliah, namely Ishmael, Johanan, Sarah, and Jezaniah. And Gedaliah swore to them, "Do not be afraid because of the Chaldean officers. Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon." But Ishmael of the royal family came with 10 men and struck down Gedaliah, along with the Jews and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people, both small and great, went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Jehoiachin released from prison. And in the 37th year of exile of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, evil Merodach, king of Babylon, in the year he began to reign, graciously freed Jehoiachin from prison. And he spoke kindly to him, and he gave him a seat above the seats of the kings. A regular allowance was given him by the king according to his daily needs as long as he lived.